Hello everyone, I am RuSyxx with Godzilla Saves the Earth. Though before I get started with it, I just want to confirm who won the bid war, Godzilla 2000s or 90s? I believe 90s was winning, but I just want to make sure.
Sure, let me just pull that up for you. Also, hello everyone, I'm Jack of Hearts. I'll be your host for the next couple of games. I hope everyone's staying hydrated. You wanted... Sorry, what were you looking for?
Which Godzilla am I using, 90s or 2000?
Oh, 90s Godzilla, yeah, sorry, I couldn't quite read it.
So everyone chose the faster option. Fantastic. So time is going to start not when I click on the character and enter, but at the beginning of the first fight, I'll just say start and it'll be good to go. So let's get in there. I kept this opening cutscene. So basic premise of this game, the Zillion alien race is trying to take over the Earth. And their grand plan is they're just going to mind control all the various kaiju throughout the Toho Kingdom, spawn nerve kaiju, and that's how they're going to do it. And time starts now. But yeah, so that's their grand plan. They're going to destroy the Earth by mind controlling all the kaiju. However, they failed to get all of the kaiju. In this case, it'll be Godzilla 90s. Oh man. So, as you may notice, different kaiju have different abilities as it goes. Baragon's big thing is that Baragon likes to dig around the stage. Normally, they don't dig that often, but the way this game goes with speedruns, sometimes they like to run everywhere. So it's like, they'll be like 1 second they're fighting you, the next second they're going across the stage doing whatever. And with Baragon and Megalon in particular, they like to dig underneath the ground, and that can be a bit slow. Fortunately, they've calmed down. So we're going to be able to hopefully finish the first fight up in quick measure. So if you may notice the main thing I'm doing here is I'm trying to pick them up and throw them. On this first stage, it's very simple because it's a wide open plain with some mountains. Baragon really doesn't have many options here. So I'm able to very easily just pick them up, throw them, do the damage. Not much of a struggle. And that's the first fight, Baragon. However, it's like that won't be true in all the stages. A lot of the stages have buildings. And they all have, the buildings all have very different properties with how they like to interact with Godzilla as a whole. And the other kaijus, like sometimes it'll just full stop you. Sometimes they block the atomic breath. Believe it or not, there's a very specific ship in a later stage that does not, it's a wooden ship, but somehow it's stronger than Godzilla's atomic breath, so. Alright, so there's Megalon. It starts off the stage digging immediately as it goes. So Megalon, unlike Baragon, involves a lot trickier timing with the beam. See that? They immediately jump to the ground. If I'm too slow, this happens. And I have to break out of his grip and reposition myself. It's like, so normally we do not get a full powered atomic breath onto Megalon, because 9 times out of 10 he will jump back into the ground. Sometimes he'll jump back in the ground even if if he's been up for 5 seconds. You never really know with him. A lot of runs get reset due to Megalon because he's a bit different than all the other kaiju in terms of how he wants to interact. In terms of early game runs, Megalon is the worst. Of course, the runs are about 15 to 20 minutes, so it's like I'm never too worried about resetting a run this game. Sometimes I'll just finish it off after this, so I can have the satisfaction of crushing him and moving on. But yeah, Megalon, that's most of what it is to him. The other thing you may notice is I don't go up to them when they're on the ground, or if I happen to knock them down, I'm going to back away. If you may have noticed, he let a huge electrical shock out when he was on the ground a moment ago. If you're too close, most of the kaiju will immediately shock you, knock you back down, or fight you back. So at all times, we want to be a distance away from them. He also kind of pushed us to be into the buildings for a minute. That was unfortunate. Usually, I try to keep it into the water. As mentioned again, the buildings are very much a distraction and make problems for us. Next up is the most known rival of Godzilla, which is King Ghidorah.
I'm going with Mothra myself.
Yeah, Mothra's more of a ally, I would say, in most cases, depending on the movie you're watching at a given time. So that was probably the worst thing that Ghidorah could have done to me at the beginning of the stage. So normally, So normally you see this airfield over here. You just gotta knock him back over there, and he just stays there. We don't have to worry about those buildings. Fortunately, we got him back over there really quickly. Because his lightning is actually not that powerful against Godzilla, at least not 90s in this game. So he's usually not much of a problem. He kind of like Baragon, kind of goes down really easily. The main things he does is either pushes you into the city at the beginning of the fight, or he jumps up in the air and tries to fly. His flying is more of a inconvenience, I would say. Because the main power-up that the CPU likes to use doesn't do anything effective to slow me down. Because the CPU doesn't know how to react to the fact that I just want to keep picking him up and hitting him, at least not at this stage. But yeah, it's like King Ghidorah is probably the most well-known of the enemies for everybody who is not aware. He's like, he's kind of like the most common villain outside of maybe Mechagodzilla. Because 9 times out of 10, the aliens brought Ghidorah with them.
If I was going to invade an alien planet and they had a giant lizard like Godzilla, I'd probably want to bring my own thing to fight it too.
Oh, but of course. I don't blame him for it. He also has one of the weirdest origin stories. I don't remember exactly which Godzilla film it was off the top of my head, but the origin of King Ghidorah, one of the films, was kind of silly. But he was created on Earth at one point in time while trying to raise Godzilla's spawning and creation. So what you all just saw me do there is like, it says failed, but I'm still going. That's because none of the stages really care if I pass or fail, so we just don't. But this is the only stage where we're actually able to fail and go quicker. And the whole point of that stage is to defend this specific building from some aliens. But we're Godzilla. Why would we want to do that? So we destroy it and we move on. So now we go on to Mogera, who is his name is actually a huge acronym. The main thing is that he's like an anti-Godzilla fighting machine. And his main, which was a repurpose from a much older film. But he kind of got crushed by Space Godzilla, so he doesn't get much time in the film universe on his own. So what you're going to see him do a lot is he's spamming all of his moves. Which is what we want him to do, actually. It's kind of a pain to deal with at the beginning of the fight. But now you notice his little weapon beam bar is low. That means he has very few options. It doesn't charge very fast on its own. And he has to basically go into shutdown mode to recharge. So you're seeing he's trying to run away. He's going to try to use physical attacks on me, mostly. Because otherwise he cannot do anything. So basically Mogera is finished from this point on, outside of a few physical attacks. So that was probably the best RNG he could have given us. Because sometimes he'll like to sit there, run around, destroying buildings, spamming his attacks, but be in a position where we can't immediately hit him. In which this case, he didn't. He managed to charge a little bit there, so he might spam right here. There we go. Now it's over. So that was a really good Mogera fight, actually. Normally he's a bit more of a pain in the butt, but there we go. So up next is getting...
No one.
Oh, yep.
Sorry, I was just saying, since no one can give you some claps, I'll give you some well done right there.
I appreciate it. So next up is Anguirus. For those who've seen the second movie, this was the first kaiju that Godzilla ever fought on film. And he's had about as much history as Mothra and Ghidorah, actually, in all reality. Not the most popular, but still one of the most prolific. In this game, he's also one of the trickier ones to time hits on. Because if he's on all fours, when you hit him with the atomic breath, it does less damage. Or he'll block faster. One of the two. So generally what we try to do is we try to hold on to the input just long enough for him to stand on 2 legs. In which case it usually does more damage. Most times. Depends on where he lands after the first hit. Sometimes he'll land in some buildings and that's a problem. You might notice the stage is a bit haphazard. There's buildings everywhere. So it's like we're trying to keep him in this like narrow area. Earlier when I was doing a practice of running into this, he just would not behave at all. So this entire area around me was fled before he was done. So far it's been going fairly well. Except for that. Anguirus also has one of the sillier movesets in the game. Though I don't know how much of that I'll allow him to show off. Preferably none. This is what I get for saying that this Ingress was going well. He starts misbehaving right there. But yeah, he likes to do a lot of spinning jump kicks and crazy things that you wouldn't expect out of a crawling any four-legged kaiju. But yeah, you saw that there. He did the little spinning kick thing. His moveset's closer to Jaguar than most of the other kaiju, like Godzilla, that kind of claw and bite. It's got a nice little mix in him. And there's an example of how quickly he can block when he's on 4 if I don't time it right. But yeah, it's like, you can see it's like how quickly this area kind of gets smashed to pieces, and it also slows us down. Because when those buildings are destroyed by, say, getting thrown at or walked into, it's slowing you down. And there we go, Ingress is done. So it's the second to last hardest stage in the game in terms of fighting. The next up will be Rodan. So Rodan's big thing in this game, also one of the older kaijus, probably one of the few in this game that actually had their own film. He likes to fly away. A lot. Unlike the other two flying kaiju that kind of just fight, Rodan will sometimes immediately, depending on your RNG that given day with the AI, oh there it is, yeah, he'll start flying to the other side of the stage. You just don't want him to do that. Because you can see, like, there's a lot of tall skyscrapers and construction sites out here. If he flies away, we have to try to navigate that. And if he just stands up there in the air, the Godzilla doesn't really reach up to him. So it becomes a bit of a challenge to deal with. That's the main thing that slows him. The fortunate thing is, he doesn't take hits very well at all. So that shouldn't be too much problem. If you're wondering what he just picked up, that's called a G-Cell. So one of the weird tidbits about this game is there was supposed to be more of a story than there actually is. In reality, there's just a little opening cutscene and then a little streak at the end, as well as a hidden cutscene if you beat the game on hard. But there's, at every stage in the arena, there are 5 G-cells hidden across the stage. They don't really benefit you or anything. You want to collect them though, in theory. They give you points. But originally, basically a lot of the game got cut out because they rushed the game out to be released alongside Godzilla Final Wars, which came out in 2004 alongside this game. So much of the story is just gone. Granted, I will say Godzilla Final Wars is one of my favorites of the film, so maybe it was worth it, who knows. And that's Rodan. Fortunately, he didn't run away too much. He can be a bit of a pain like that. Alright, up next is what we call Kaiju Bowling. So this is the reason that the estimate is 20 minutes. Because it's a 3-minute segment, however, or it gives you, there's a 3-minute time limit to complete the challenge. However, depending on how well I do, it can take a while. Alright, so this is already going poorly. So I went for the quick strat there. Usually you can try and catch the boulder they throw at you. If you don't screw up, you can throw it back at them. But I keep throwing it too quickly because you have to press the grab to throw it as well. So it's like I'm spamming to catch it. So it just doesn't always work out. But generally, like you may or may not see it. But Godzilla is basically a giant T-Rex. So when he reaches down to grab these boulders, he misses a lot. And that's where a lot of the problems come from, and also why we usually aim to catch. And there we go. That was actually a really good Kaiju Bowling. Normally I take more time to explain where this is going on. But normally what you'll see happen, especially during PB attempts, like I'll be on a PB pace and I'll get to Kaiju Bowling and Godzilla will not pick up the boulders. So fortunately that went really well. I made that look a bit easier than it actually is. It's probably one of the hardest challenges in the game. So now we have Mothra, the queen of the monsters. My personal favorite Kaiju, actually. So, yeah. So Mothra is actually a bit unique. As you may notice, right now she's in her larva form. That's because Mothra can transform. We'll see how long it takes me to get her to the transform state, but basically, it also makes her a little bit of a unique challenge in this run because she goes back up to full health. Additionally, while the first phase is like all the other Kaiju where they're all weak to atomic breath, so that's your main goal, adult Mothra doesn't care about atomic breath. She just deflects it and doesn't take any damage from it. So we have to fight adult Mothra more traditionally.
Do you mind if I just plug something quickly?
Yeah, you're good.
Alright, so I would like to just remind everyone that next up is the XCOM Chimera Squad, which will be run by Tricro, and there is a bid war for the faction you can choose. Currently, there are no bids towards any of the factions, so if anyone wants to snipe the game, like, in the next, say, 10 minutes, that's when I'm going to close the bid, you can do. You have the choice of 3 different factions. You can choose... It just says the aliens are attacking, the robots are attacking, or the psychics are attacking. So which one of those do you want to attack in Chimera Squad? Yeah, you can choose it now. Just get your donations in. Thank you very much.
Alright, cool.
Alright, back to you, Ruth.
Alright, so as everybody's probably noticing, Mothra is a bit trickier than all the other kaiju, because again, I have to fight her more traditionally. I can't rely on the usual strat of spamming. Which also... like, if anybody ever wants to check out the boards of this game, they might notice that the only time that's faster than mine is an Xbox run. So on the Xbox, there's actually a motion cancel that allows them to spam Godzilla's tail whip. So they're able to beat Mothra before she's able to transform. Unfortunately, as of now, the PS2 version hasn't found something to that effect. So there's not really a confirmed strategy against Mothra. Because her biggest weakness is just being physically beat down, preferably into a wall or in buildings, depending on what her AI is doing that day. But yeah, typically I try to push her against the wall, but she's not been behaving very much today. Been going back into the city. But that is the hardest of the stages, and we're on to the final stage now. Which is going to be Mechagodzilla 2. So for those who know, there are 3 Mechagodzillas in the franchise. The first one was completely alien. The second one was kind of a weird mishmash of human and alien technology. And the third one was all humans. This is actually my least favorite of the Mechagodzillas. My personal favorite is the Ryu Kiryu, which is from the Millennium series. This one has a weird factor that it was also in the same film as a fan-made kaiju that kind of got overshadowed by Mechagodzilla, so I've always had a weird feeling about that personally. But the fight in general was very straightforward. The main focus is to keep Mechagodzilla in this center circle. Because you may have noticed throughout the run, there's a lot of little like beams and bullets being shot at the kaiju. And there's a lot more of those if you leave this area. And if you're not careful, they will interrupt Godzilla's atomic breath and slow things down. And of course, we don't want that. Though with that said, it looks like this run will be over in just a few moments. I think he'll be like 1 or 2 more atomic breaths and that will be it. And time will be on the KO when the KO screen flashes. That was a bit awkward of an ending. And time.
Yeah, don't you hate it when I live on 1?
Of course. So they said that little bit of life left. Alright, well, I set up for the incentive though. Do you have anything else you want to plug?
Sorry, did you ask me something?
I was going to say, it's like, well, before I set up the incentive, is there anything else you wanted to plug?
Oh, no, I did actually, I said before I couldn't see the names of the factions for XCOM. The factions you can choose from are Grey Phoenix, Sacred Coil, or the Progeny. Yeah, we've got about 5 minutes left. But yeah, you have an incentive run to do, don't you, RuSyxx?
Yes. I was like, I had 5 minutes left? What? What was the time?
Your time was 17:15.
Okay.
So pretty good.
Okay, cool. I was saying, like, if it was 15 minutes, it didn't feel that fast. Alright. So for basketball, people were asking...
Yeah, some kaiju basketball, I hope.
Oh, definitely. So just to answer a quick question in the chat, to beat this game casually is like... Depends on if you decide you want to speed through the stages or not. I've seen people do anywhere between about 40 to 50 minutes. Particularly if they don't fail. So it's like it's not a super long game to start with. It's just we kind of optimize what moves are used. All right, it's time for some basketball though. So kind of similar to Kaiju bowling, there's a lot of boulders we have to pick up here. The problem that comes into stages like this, though, is that while the AI for fighting isn't very good, their AI for scoring baskets is actually pretty decent. So after this first shot, we're not going to play very fair. See if I can get them to stop running. There we go. Oh, no, I missed. So pretty much from the very get-go, we're going to try and incapacitate our opponents. Godzilla's not a very sportsmanlike character. He doesn't like losing. So pretty much the goal is to knock them down. Every time we get them both to be knocked down, there's time for about 2 to 3 shots, which is ideal. Because again, like I mentioned, these two do not miss. So if there's any periods like this where I'm stuck, unable to knock them down, they're going to start catching up. This is taking a bit longer. Usually the first knockdown is a bit easier. This time around, they're all behaving a bit poorly. This is also the first time I've seen where the third Kaiju just disappears. Like, I don't know where... I think it was Gigan went? There it is. Okay. Usually the camera stays focused on them both the entire time. That was never happened before, actually. Normally the camera...
Bingo!
Yep. The camera usually has its focus on all 3 Kaiju at all times. This has been a very rough basketball so far. I practiced this beforehand because this can go so poorly sometimes. But yeah. We'll see if I can catch him as he's getting up. Oh, no. Because usually they don't stay down for very long either when you throw them individually. And there we go. Okay. So now we have free reign to make a couple of hoops. Ah, missed. I have gotten much better at this. One thing I will notice, like, because I whenever I run this in marathons, I try to get this incentive in. As a result, I've actually gotten much better at this minigame than I think I have any right to be. Because it's such a silly make. So that was a bit funny thing. So what you usually won't see very often is those basketballs. If you can actually use them to knock your opponent's back like that. So that was kind of a funny thing to see, like where he kind of bounced back my throw with the ball. Lead balls are somehow strong enough to knock the Kaiju back.
Yeah, I think the question on everyone's mind right now is, can we do this multiplayer and can we set up a tournament for it?
I wish we could. As far as I know, there isn't, but I've never actually checked. I've never played anybody in this game. So I might be wrong. Maybe there is a multiplayer version of this game, but I would love to do it.
It's quite a claim to fame. Godzilla basketball champion of the world.
Of course. I'm sure there's someone out there who's better than me. 16 points isn't a very impressive run of it either. What? With that said, though, that was Kaiju basketball. Kaiju is the basketball champion in this go-around, which is better than I can say about some other runs of it. Alright, with that said, that was Godzilla Save the Earth. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I hope you all had a great time. And that's it from me.